So I've had comments of people being like, why are you showing this? Like, to me, it's like, why do I care if I show a DIY guy how to do something with a $5,000 scan tool that they're never going to buy a $5,000 scan tool to do? They're never going to have the capability to. I don't have much faith in the abilities of a lot of guys that are already in the industry. And while a lot of those guys might be trainable with the right training and the right direction and stuff like that, I mean, dude, I know some techs that are 40, 50 years old that I'm like, I don't understand how you made it this far, how you're still, like, doing this job.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting, thought-provoking episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. My name's Jeff, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection and insight into the toils and triumphs of a career in automotive repair. After more than 20 years of skin knuckles and tool debt, I want to share my perspectives and hear other people's thoughts about our industry. So pour yourself a strong coffee or grab a cold Canadian beer and get ready for some great conversation.
Yeah, 100%. And all of my every single video that I've done since the beginning of my like mechanic social media journey here, because I used to have a kayak fishing channel on YouTube before my son was born, but so that was actually the start of my social media journey. But I didn't do it for 6 years, and my fiance had started doing TikTok, so I was like, I downloaded it to watch her. I'm like, maybe I'll just try to shoot a TikTok, or I want to start doing YouTube for my mechanical stuff. And it was just so easy to do the TikTok to record it. So like, if you go back to my original videos, I had no clue how TikTok worked. And I have it was a CRV starter I was changing. There's like 18 parts to it that were each like 3 minutes long, because it was before 10-minute videos came out. and I got freaking roasted. The one video went like semi-viral for the time, since I was a brand new creator. And it was solely for the fact that I took the positive cable off of the battery before, or I didn't even take the ground off. I just took the positive off and I pushed it to the side. And I realized right at that moment, I was like, oh, okay. So the more negative things people have to say, the more these videos are going to blow up. And I was like, well, this is perfect. I don't need to be, because you can tell when people's videos are staged if you know what you're looking at. And I'm like, I don't need to stage a single fucking thing. I'm like, I can literally show my mistakes that I'm making while trying to figure out these problems. And those videos with mistakes will do really good. And I was 100% right about that. So yeah, all my videos are completely genuine. And I'm sure that there's guys that like look at me that have seen a couple of my videos and don't like watch all my videos, that are like, why do people think this guy's any good? Like, look at what he's like ruining. Look at what he's doing in these videos. Yeah, that's because we're not like, there's no guys out there that are perfect. And I'm here to show that. Like, if I make a mistake, I want someone that's watching this video to learn something, to learn how not to make that mistake, more than I want them to learn how to figure out what the problem is, you know?
Yeah. And you and I have had that conversation. I even made that TikTok video because I'm new to TikTok. So I just learned how to stitch the other day, right? Like, that was the hallelujah moment. It flows so much better when you do it. But like, I don't know, you're awesome, because like, you'll see the trolls come into yours and you're like the politest guy to the trolls. And I'm like losing my mind every time somebody like, I'm the like, okay, we're going to go out in the front yard. We're going to settle this kind of guy. Right. Like and you are the complete opposite. You're just like, thanks very much, because you're pumping the algorithm for me. And I'm just like, and I see it all the time, because you can see it's like somebody would be talking on one of your videos and it'll be like completely unrelated. And it'll be like, hey, question about this type of car, and I'm like, my head is ready to explode, because we're talking about like, a Honda, and he's like, I got a Ford with a misfire fault, and like, I'm just like, did you ever wander into the wrong room, mister? Like, I mean, we're not talking Fords.
I get that all the time. Those comments never really bother me. Like, they bother other people when like I'm talking that they're like, like you said, why is this guy asking about a Ford when you're doing a damn Honda video? Like, why does he care? I'm like, well, because this guy probably really, really feels like he needs help on this problem. And he probably thinks like, and again, this might be ego here, but he probably is watching this video and go, this is the only guy that can help me. I need him to answer me on this. You know what I mean? Like, so that's probably why they like, it's like when you word vomit a comment out. It's like, oh, here's my opportunity. 2011 Ford Edge, P0016. I haven't changed the oil yet. What do I do? Like, well, you start with changing the oil, buddy. But sometimes I'll see those comments, and it's when because like when I first post a video, I'm very responsive in the first like half hour to hour that's up, because the initial fire roll on that video going out is what's going to help determine how it gets pushed. So I watch every comment coming in on like for the original per se like 20 to 30 comments, and I'll make sure I like and reply to all of those comments and stuff. And very, very often I'll get that Honda video guy asking a Ford question, and I'll be like, oh, I don't want to like that. I don't want him to know that I saw it yet. I'll answer him later. And then like an hour later, I'll like it, and I'll be like, hey, I'm sorry, dude. I'm like super busy. I got a million people asking questions. I'd love to help. If you want, send an email to my email, and if I have the time to answer you, I'll most definitely answer you. And I try to as often as possible, but I'm clear with people that like I don't have time to answer everybody.
Yeah, see, I was just going to say that's pretty admirable. But I mean, like, if I was going to put myself out there tomorrow and start doing, a video, I wouldn't even entertain the notion of trying to answer all those types of questions, right? Because it's like, I feel on social media by now, there's so much good information out there about how to fix your own car, how to diagnose your own car. And I'm not talking like CAN diagnostics. I'm not talking like advanced cloning and stuff like that. But I'm, like when somebody says, "Oh, I got a P420 on whatever," it's like, okay, that's, I don't want to say it's first day stuff, but the answers are already out there, bud. Like somebody way more talented than me has put out a really good video explaining how to troubleshoot that. Go troubleshoot it. Go learn. Like take the initiative. Make yourself an expert on the subject. Watch that stuff and then tackle it. But I don't want to say it's the younger generation because you don't know obviously when somebody posts what their age is. But I find that's my kicker when I was talking about DIYs and whatnot on the internet. The thing I struggle with is all the people that just want the damn answer. You know what I mean? Like there's guys like you and there's so many of us, other Brandon and whatnot, Toba, everybody, Norm, putting out these great content about how to solve a problem, and they just want a frickin' answer. Well, and then the worse than that is Scotty Kilmer. Like what really infuriates me is when people get online and all they want to do is you'll make a Chuck goes to fix a Jeep and somebody's like, oh, aha, Jeeps are, set it on fire. What a stupid comment. Like, okay, yeah, you don't like the brand, but that's not helping anybody. It's just congratulations, right? Like that to me, the pandering to the customer side, of what I'm trying to get through people is like we need to stop running each other down, is because then all you're doing is just pandering to the customers side of social media to get them to say, oh, this brand is better than that brand. Because there's no credibility at that point, right? Like it's like Kilmer used to get on and say Toyota was the greatest thing in the world. And I think he gave up if Toyota never sent him a brand new Toyota. And now he just says everything. It's terrible. So when people get on there and it's like they make it say shops that do this or shops that don't do that, I just shake my head because it's like I think we shouldn't be on there as the mechanics of social media trying to get customers to understand us better or like us more. I think we should be all trying to build each other up within the community. That's just where I'm at with this. This is what makes me do what I do, right? I'm fascinated by somebody like yourself. I'm fascinated by somebody like Paul, Chris, Brandon, Rich, all that, because I want to know like how you got to where you're going and where you want to go. And the customers that just want to gripe about, their brand new car that doesn't live up to the expectations. I'm so burnt out to listen to that. I mean, that was all good when, I worked at the dealer and I was paid to listen to them complain. But now when I'm out, my social media is away from that. I don't care that it went back to the dealership 7 times. I really don't. My fix for it's going to be, how do we all get better so that it doesn't take 7 trips, right? That's it. Not like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for you because they haven't been able to fix your car at the dealership. Like I've seen those cars. They're not, most of the time, they're not broke. They're just something that's this intermittent thing that, is a squeak or a rattle that is probably all of them do it. And because you don't have your radio on, you hear all these stupid noises or feel all this crap. And meanwhile, the next person driving the exact same car doesn't notice any of it because they're just enjoying driving their car,
Yeah,
So,
definitely. I mean, that's like, the people that you tell have bad wheel bearings, and they're like, "What noise?" When I'm driving, you're like, "Dude, I can't hear myself think in your car. You have bad wheel." They're like, "No, I don't." I'm like, "You can't hear it because you're so used to it at this point. You're trained to the noise." And yeah, customers definitely become that way. They become trained. Um, some people think that the dealer is like the greatest place you could ever go. On the other hand, other people think that the dealer is the worst place you could ever go. Some people think that every independent shop is like the guys that cut axle boots and spray shocks,
yep.
and other people will not go anywhere besides an independent shop. And a big part of all of that is because they've, even if no one was personally training them for that, they've been conditioned and trained, their entire driving lives for that.
Yeah. Yeah. What what do you see as the biggest obstacle that's going to be coming down the pipe for our industry?
Staffing. It's purely I mean, when okay, so when you hear the normal argument of people saying that like a lot of the older guys that are really good are retiring and getting out of the industry. To me, that's kind of like a lot of like personal experience. A lot of the older guys that I've worked with, or a lot of the older guys at shops that I go to diagnose for and stuff, they're already years, behind on the technology that's out there and stuff. So, and I get it. Like an old dog doesn't want to learn new tricks. You know what I mean? You've been doing the same thing for 40 years. You're almost ready to retire. Why are you going to start picking up a scope if you've never used a scope? Nope.
Right.
I get that, but the older guys that are good and are figuring out the intricate things and stuff like that are leaving because of money, going to other industries. You know, the guys that are like, I'm 36, so I find myself in like the middle of the age group in this industry. Um, guys like me and my age are literally like, I don't know, I know 3 or 4 really qualified, talented mechanics, in my area that have completely left the industry. And it all
Yeah.
comes down to money, working conditions, and stuff like that. And you don't have younger, newer guys getting into the business. We don't have a new, Fast and the Furious isn't what it used to be. And no one's going out and crawling on their back and hacksawing their own tailpipe off anymore. Because,
Yep.
In all honesty, they'd rather just pay somebody to do it, or I don't know. It's staffing to answer your question, but I would say staffing as a result of money.
Mhm.
We're required to be HVAC technicians, plumbers, electricians, mechanics, maintenance guys. Um, I'm missing one here. What's the trade I'm missing that we're supposed to be in as well? But we have to be
Elect-
all these different trades condensed into one trade. Yet I could probably pack up my business right now, spend 5 years as like an apprentice with a electrician's business that's doing really good, and then start making the same money that I'm making right now, having my own business, working for somebody else as an electrician. Um, and that's real. Like I put out a video a while ago that some people loved and some people hated, saying that our labor rates do not fit our industry at this point. Um,
no, they
I
don't.
I think that we really were an industry that our labor rate with the kind of work we do, I mean, we should be up towards the 300 area if I'm putting a random number at it. Independent shops, dealers, because now independent shop, I mean, we've got to buy the same equipment that dealers have to buy at this point too, to keep afloat and stuff. So that gap where the dealer was 160 and all your independent shops were 80, that gap is closing because of the
Yep.
amount that needs to be invested in and stuff. And I really think like this whole industry, the fact that we're not up close to like $300 an hour is insanity to me. When
Yeah.
my used car lot, we had a Roto Rooter. Do you guys have Roto Rooter up by you?
I've heard of the name, but we probably have
They're
something
like a
different.
chain mobile plumbing business, right? So
Yep.
they'll come, they'll snake your toilet or whatever the case may be. We had a Roto Rooter guy come out. He attempted to snake the toilet. It's an industrial, building or commercial building, so it's not like he's coming into the house. He literally walked into a door from the outside of the building, used an electric snake, did not unclog it, was there for like 15 minutes, like $550. The
Yep.
snake costs a third of what one of my scan tools cost. But if I go somewhere and I try to fix something and I spend 15 minutes there and I don't fix it, I try to charge $550, I'm going to get shot.
Yeah.
It's just, that's staffing because of money in the industry. Labor rates should go up. That money, while obviously 100% of it can't go to the techs, but the majority of that increase in the labor rate should go to buffering the pay of technicians so that you start off in this industry not making the same amount that someone makes getting into a job at Burger King or McDonald's. Or, I mean, shit, like starting pay in a lot of areas for this job is still $9-10 an hour in a lot of central and southern states and stuff. I was making freaking I think I was taking home $180 a week when I got into this,
Yeah.
So if you're going to take home $9 an hour, yet McDonald's everywhere in the country is starting off at 15 to 18. I'm sorry. As a kid, I'm taking the $18 an hour job no matter how much I like cars.
Mm-hmm. Plus, look at the tool investment, right?
Correct.
Even on top of it. So, how do you think the mentoring thing is affecting it as well? Because we talked kind of like guys gatekeeping, right? Not sharing information or not, if they know a trick or a workaround on some pretty advanced stuff, they don't share it. And I know from years when I was at the dealer, if I figured out something, I didn't immediately go and show everybody in the shop. I might help my buddy that did the same kind of work I did all day long. I might help him. I might show him. But I mean, do you think that there's a lot of gatekeeping going on?
Well, let me top your question with a question here. Actually, so why at that time would you not Okay, so me at the time, if I found a workaround that took a job from 6 hours to say 2 hours, because I found some, I would be the first one to run around the shop telling everybody. So, what was the reason for you not running around the shop telling everybody?
Mine wasn't a workaround in the sense of here's how to shave time off doing a job. Mine was oh, we've got a caravan that when you hit the brakes, the radio station would change channels, stuff like that. Well, you would find it because you'd find the splice that was rotten on the floor pan, touching ground, and I might show that to somebody else. But if you shared it, the next time that car came in. And see, I worked in a dealership where if it got backed up, they just dispatched diag to anybody. So it might have taken me 3 hours to find that to track down that problem. The next guy, if he knows the exact same, he's going there right first, and he's gonna go right there. There's no diag process. It's just as if you pulled something out of Identifix, not running down Identifix, and so my time then becomes worth less. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the next van that came in, that I still needed 3 hours to find that exact. You understand what I'm saying, right? You don't need 3 hours the next time. But if I'd have given that away, then they wouldn't have seen it as being any value to what I did, because anybody would have been able to do it then, because he'd have taught it to everybody else. That's what I mean about not sharing it. And maybe in hindsight, it wasn't the best way, but I had to do it because I'd be 3 hours in on a diag. The guy across the shop could have done 4 brake jobs. And then when we get backed up and he doesn't have a brake job to do, they're going to dispatch that job to him. And if I've told him if he comes over and taps on my shoulder and says, hey, I got one across the bay for me, and he's sitting at 60 hours and I'm at 35, I was of that mindset that, well, that job can sit there and wait till I get this job done, and then I'll take that job. If I go and give him the answer, what are they going to have for me next? At what point do they rein him in and go, okay, you've got 60, he's got 35. You know what I mean, Chuck? I'm giving him the answer. I'm kind of giving him the answer and taking money out of my pocket to give it to him. Do you see what I mean?
I get that. Throughout my career, I've had personal issues with the flat rate system, and not just based on don't get me wrong, I hated having weeks where I took home $800 and then the next week took home $100 with no guarantee. But I've got my problems with the flat rate system for a lot of different reasons. And to me, and don't get me wrong, the flat rate system is a good system for a lot of reasons as well. But I think that what you were going through with the story you just told is, let's say flat rate never existed. Okay. It just wasn't a thing. It didn't exist. It was illegal. And everyone that worked at that shop was either hourly or salary.
Yep.
you would have ran around and told everybody the reason that the fucking horn's
I'd
going
have,
off.
I'd have shared it with everyone because I would have wanted us as a team to be the best team, quote unquote, in the league.
Yes. Now think about now that small condensed team that you would have just helped out and everything. Expand that and let's pretend that small team was just that's all the mechanics on the planet. So that's the
Right.
industry is that small team. So
Yep.
now you're helping the entire industry by showing we're taking pay out of it, flat rate out of it, and everything. You're helping the entire industry by showing them that problem so that the industry can benefit themselves, the customer. They could charge their bare minimum of an hour diag. The customer's happy because it's fixed correctly. They find the
Right.
splice within 5 minutes, so they're making good money off that job now. They can all move on to the next job so that now you're getting 2 brake jobs, the other guy's getting 2 brake jobs. Like that's kind of the way that I see it.
Mhm.
And I think that it kind of sucks, honestly, that the structure of pay was the thing that made you not want to run out and tell everybody what fixed it, and that there might have been one guy in the shop that ended up down the road leaving the industry because he never had anyone really showing him, the ins and outs and the tips and the tricks and things along those lines that would have made him faster and more profitable. And then also would have then clued his brain into the fact that, like, wait, a green splice can cause this weird problem. Now I'm going to think differently about every weird problem I look at because I realize a splice or corrosion or placement or the fact that the plastic on the sill is cracked had something to do with it with water entry. So I mean that's really that to me is is gatekeeping, conditioned gatekeeping. I would call that conditioned gatekeeping based on the fact that you were on a flat rate system.
Mhm. But see, does it? So I'll give you this in response. Does it undervalue it though if we just give the answers all the way?
Uh, no, I don't believe so because I feel like if there were 6 technicians in that circle of technicians that you ran to and you told, hey, I had this prop, the freaking the radio was turning on and off when I was hitting the brakes, and you
Mhm.
told these 6 people, I think 4 out of those 6 people would get that same exact problem 3 months later and never remember that you ever told that to them. And then the other 2 guys would go, oh, you know what? I think Jeff had this. What did he say it was? And the one guy would remember, oh, it's the splice, go right to it. And the other guy would go up to you and say, Jeff, I remember you had this weird problem a while ago. Do you remember exactly what it was? And then that's more you're one on one helping the guy. I really think, like, and it's sad to say, but I really do truly believe that those 4 other technicians would never remember what you did.
Yeah. So then we could make the argument that those 4 other ones that say don't have that memory or would have never don't have a process to get to the result. So say that's the example, right? I'm big on process. I talk all the time about process. You have a process when you go to a vehicle, certain PIDs you look at on every vehicle for whatever you're trying to solve, your routine, whatever you want to call it. Some people don't develop that. Some people don't have it, don't want it, don't, to them, if they would much rather put struts in than get handed a diag problem. But if there's no struts to be put in and you hand them a diag problem, they don't have a process. So now all they can get is an answer. All you can give them is a bullet right. Here's the arrow hitting the bullseye on the target. Go over there, do that. Is that really helping them, Chuck? I mean, so it helps the business, but does it help the tech?
As far as that technician getting that particular diag job with like the van that we're talking about, or just in general?
Just in general. Yeah.
I think that technician's working at the wrong shop, or the dispatching is not going well, or honestly, that's what that sounds like to me.
But that happens, unfortunately, Chuck. In most shops, they don't get what you just said, the dispatching and the skill development and everything. It doesn't get wrong, or it doesn't get done well or properly. So I understand why some guys gatekeep. I don't. I'm the same as you. I think it sucks, but I would be lying if I said I shared everything that I ever learned the hard way with everybody, because I had to learn it the hard way. I had to put all those hours in, just like you do, that I didn't get paid for. And then if I'm just going to give everybody the answers, well, somebody came up with Identifix, and it's a wonderful program, and it's a multi-million-dollar thing now. But I see now, and we see people in the conversations in the industry, and they really say nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to figure anything out. They just want to rely on that pattern failure silver bullet fix. So I'm torn with it. Where I work right now, I'll share anything with anybody because we all benefit. But when the pay depends on what you can produce, and that I keep my cards very close to my chest.
Yeah, for
Uh,
me, I just feel like there is not and never ever will be a finite amount or a finite amount of repair work out there. There will always be repair. I mean, we're a recession proof business, especially with people leaving the industry.
yeah,
And on a large scale, like things that I would show in video and stuff, I've had comments of people being like, "Why are you showing this? Like you shouldn't be showing this because it's To me, it's like I don't know. Why do I care? Um, if I show a DIY guy how to do something with a $5,000 scan tool that they're never going to buy a $5,000 scan tool to do, they're never going to have the capability to. And then when it comes to um, actually working, with people in the industry and stuff like that, unfortunately, I don't have much. Um, what's the word I'm looking for here? I don't have much faith in the abilities of a lot of guys that are already in the industry. And while a lot of those guys might be trainable with the right training in the right direction and stuff like that, I mean, dude, I know some techs that are 40, 50 years old that I'm like, I don't understand how you made it this far, how you're still like doing this
oh,
job.
yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from on that. But let me ask you then. Sometimes in a shop environment, what we can blame that on is two things. There's no shop culture there of an improvement of your skill set, and then if there is a reward for improvement of your skill set, it's strictly on their own investment, right? They have to, like for me, even when I was at the dealer, they didn't send me to a ton of training. I was at the dealer before there was online training, and then when I started to get really good and moved to different brands, different dealerships, I didn't do their online training because it was redundant, basic stuff, and it was unpaid, and it had to be done on my own time. And I'm like, listen, I Ohm's law, I got that. I can rock that shit. I don't need another 3-hour refresher where I click and point and go through and go, yeah, just to say so that I can write a warranty claim. That's not like I'm not doing it. It's unpaid. I'm not doing it because I worked at a dealer where I worked with a lot of guys that have been there 25 years. They were ASC, not ASC. They were brand master certified. So whatever. And I would do their comebacks for them because they struggled with electrical. They struggled with drivability. They'd taken all the classes in class, got paid to be out of the shop to do it, but they struggled with it. I didn't. So why then, when all of a sudden the online stuff rolled out and everybody started to say, all your training's now online, you do it on your own time and it's unpaid? I had a problem with that. Maybe in hindsight, it wasn't, I should have just sucked it up and took it, but it was where I was at the time. I was just like, no, I don't need to. I'm not going to do it for free. If that guy over there I'm at the time, I'm 31, he's 48. If I have to go over there and do something for him, it's a rudimentary basic volt drop problem. And he's got all this training that he was paid for. And you want me to take the same training to get to the same level that he got, but I got to do it for free? I'm sorry, I don't swallow that pill. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it's fair. And I get wrapped up too much in life on what is fair. It's been a real thing, and for me, the last 10 years to learn fair is nothing. Fair is fiction. Fair doesn't exist. It is what it is, and that's just what it's going to be. And you try to treat people better, then you get treated, and that's hopefully, karma makes a whole lot more sense than fair. But going back to it, I understand why gatekeeping happens, and I want to see the industry get to a point where it's not such a problem. But I believe that we fix it by working on individual tech competency. I believe that we have to mentor ourselves better right now. I believe we have to mentor the next generation way better than we were mentored. I mean, you were not mentored at all. And then if we can get to where we get away from some of the incentivized pay plans, then I think we see a lot of the gatekeeping go away. So that's just my in a nutshell thing about why I think it happens, because Brandon talks a lot about it, Rich has kind of talked about it. It's a very interesting topic, and there's so many facets to it. I enjoy the conversation, but I understand why guys do it. I have done it myself in the past, and under certain circumstances, I'd do it again. It's self-preservation. It's not because I want to screw anybody or screw the customer. I gotta keep what I gotta keep.
The fact that there's a need for self-preservation, and not to blame this completely on flat rate or anything like that, is that's probably more of a problem in the industry than the money, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fact, like, all right, listen, if you have a shop directly across the street from another shop, and you both have 2 employees and 1 manager and 1 owner, of course I'm not going to run right across the street and give them all my secrets. You know what I mean? And because that is really self-preservation, and that's 2 businesses that you're never going to get rid of 2 competing businesses. But when it comes to 2 competing, well, they're not competing, 2 competing techs working for the same business, and gatekeeping is happening because of that. I mean, yeah, that's a huge industry problem to me.
Yeah. But you'll see lots of shop owners that, if there's going back to your example of, there's a shop across the road and you've got 2 bays and 2 employees, and you've got 2 bays employees, they would love to see that shop fold up, close down, and be able to get their customers.
Not me. No, I want that shop to pay me to walk across the street to go figure out their hard to figure out problems.
Right.
I can't take on all their customers. My shop's not big enough. We both have very tiny shops, but I want you to pay me to come over there to help you, and we could trade customers as time goes along, because customers leave businesses and go to another. Grass is always greener on the other side. So having that business while we're in competition, it's not the work. I don't want to put you out of business. I want to be better than you.
Well, but some would say, if I'm better than you, it's just a matter of time and you're going to be out of business.
Yeah, not necessarily. I tell people you can have, there's 3 ways you could do things. You could do things cheap. You could do them with quality, or you could, do them, what's the freaking third one I'm looking for? You could do them cheap with quality, or you could do them fast. You can't have all 3. You can pick 2, and I'll try to do those 2. So the other shop might survive because they're cheaper than me, or they're faster than me, or, I don't want them to be better than me. That's all,
Yeah. It's so funny when you talk to some of the owners that, like, they'll tell you some of the stigma in some of the shops right now is that if you're a single shop owner, you haven't made it yet. You haven't made it until you're a multi-shop owner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to think that I needed to get multiple vans on the road. I needed to have a shop. I needed to have multiple shops. I'm way happier and make way more money doing it this way.
Really, eh?
Way happier. Yeah. Dude, I can't tell you the amount of stress in the last 8 months or so before we finally said, screw this, we're closing the shop. I have never been in a darker place in my life than I was for that 8 months. Wow. Then we closed the shop. A huge weight was lifted off of my shoulders, but not completely. It was still kind of there. And I'm like, why? Like, we closed the shop. This is what was like, dude, I'm telling you, like, I was debilitated to the point where I'd go to the shop, I'd spend my couple hours there, and then I would go pull over onto the side of the road and basically just put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I don't want to talk to nobody. Even my fiance calling me, I would come home. I didn't even want to talk to people. I didn't want to talk to her. I don't want to do it. Actually, was it Paul's episode with you or Chris? It was Chris's episode where his wife was talking about he would come home and he would just want to play video games. She would make dinner. He wouldn't even come out for dinner. She'd eat dinner alone. Like, that was my life was a more extreme version of that. I would sit on the side of the road and not come home. It was bad. So we closed the shop, and I still was like, man, something is giving me like these feelings of like dread, and I can't figure out what it is. And I realized it was this. It was the amount of notifications. It was the growing out of business that I did. And that was when I finally decided to make the change to where I was going to primarily take on repair shops and stuff like that. Now I don't even pick up the phone. I let it go to voicemail unless it's someone I know or it's something important. They can leave a message and I'll get back to them as soon as I can, if I can, by the way. Not guaranteed I'm going to, and I'm pretty clear about that in my voicemail. But I needed to do that for myself and for my family. It's, and as soon as I did that, literally as soon as I did that, all of that weight was then lifted off of my shoulders. And the only time that I kind of get stressed out is if I'm looking at my bank and my projections and the holidays coming up and stuff like that. And like today, I made almost $0 because that freaking thing got stuck on the lift. That's, that's the thing that'll stress me out. But that's fine because that's only 2% of the 100% of stress that I had before I decided to make these changes. So for me, it is and will continue to be stay small and keep it all. I have no grandiose feelings of needing, even really needing a shop. You know what I mean? It's just I tried it. It's not for me.
With Rich riding around with you, is there ever a situation where Rich maybe would like go into a second band, or that's not even?
No, so Rich just helps me out on the weekends. He's not even an employee, if you know what I'm saying. So he's been my best friend since we were like 15. Actually, no, since we were like 14, 15. He works for Westchester County, so he's got a municipality job during the week. So Monday through Friday, he's got a nice, taxpayer money job where he. What's that?
As a tech?
No. He's a junior traffic. He's a full-fledged traffic engineer, I think. But his previous job was a junior traffic engineer. He's like an engineer without an engineering degree.
Right. Yeah.
He does, road closures and signs and stuff like that, but from a computer in his office. And then on the weekends, he works with me, gives me a little hand. So, but no, Rich will never go into his own van. And Rich, who will end up listening to this podcast as well, he worked for me. He's a previous tech. And he worked for me at a previous shop that I was running. And he is wonderful on the weekends. He's wonderful when he's with me and I can listen and I can hear and I can see and stuff like that. But and he would have no problem with me saying this, as a career technician, he doesn't have the ability to not get burnt out on a daily basis,
Right.
But on the weekends, great, awesome,
That's cool. So what's your long-term aspirations? Long-term, like, are you exactly where you want to be right now?
I'm a man without goals. I've always been a man without goals my entire life. I live life kind of as it comes and stuff. So I'm about, I don't know, kind of like, I don't ever say like I want to complete this goal by this time or anything like that. But I do a lot of looking back and realizing that I set a goal that I didn't, really like programming. Something that sounds so simple to some people. Programming, like a GM, for instance, or a Ford. When I was at Ford, we had Tough Books and we had, I think it was the original VCM at the time. I didn't realize that this was stuff that you could buy at all. So like my whole career going into, I never knew anyone on the independent side that did programming, like not a single person. Everything that ever had to get programmed went to the dealer. And I had no one to ask or talk to about like what even is programming. Like I thought I was going to be like kind of like HP tuners, like hooking up a laptop and transferring files over and like all the, like that movie Hackers from the 90s, like, oh man, I'm programming, and, so then I finally got into I told my tool guy, I was like, listen, just dude, get me a JBox, please, because I need to start programming and I'll figure it out once I have the JBox. And he threw it in my hands. And then I look back and I'm like, shoot, okay, so I got the JBox a year ago. And in this past year, I've probably done 100 programmings maybe on GM, Ford, Chrysler. And then I look back to 2 or 3 years ago where I was going, man, I'd really like to get into programming. So to me, that's kind of like I'm looking back at a goal that I achieved that I didn't really set. So I don't know. Next thing will be keys. Maybe that's my next goal. It's just, doing more key stuff and cutting more key stuff. And then like, I don't know. They're short-term goals. Like I look up to Cody from Cody's Auto Diagnostics so much for the stuff that he's capable of doing. And I call him for help. I also call him just to tell him like weird shit that I ran into too. You know what I mean? So I don't just use him as a lifeline. But I've sent him modules for him to clone for me and stuff like that. And while I don't want to put Cody out of business by any means, I want to help Cody achieve his own goal of, like he says, he wants to be put out of business. He wants everyone to be able to do what he can do. And I want to be able to do the things that Cody can do. That's my next goal. And then once I get to that point, I'll try to find somebody that can do more than Cody. And then I'll want to do the things that he can do, you know?
Yeah, I understand. So you heard me earlier when we were talking a couple days ago. I said to you, I wanted to see it where you can wind down and not work 7 days a week. Do you feel like, and you said to me, well, I've been working 7 days a week since I was, a teenager. Do you feel like you're not feeling burnt out? You're not feeling like you're not missing things? Because I know when you posted on TikTok, even your fiance went to a concert. You went into the city, and that seemed like a big deal for you to get away from the business for a day and take the train into the city, go see a concert. I didn't know the band, or I don't think it's my type of music, but you don't feel like you're missing out, Chuck, on stuff with such a workload that you take on?
I do. I 100% realize that I miss out on a lot with my family, a ton. If you, if you follow my fiance on TikTok, you will see all of the really cool things that she gets to do with the kids. And she's a stay-at-home mom, and I have zero, just so everyone knows, I have zero issue with that. I like her as a stay-at-home mom. And not because I want to control everything and pull all the strings or anything like that. I love that she gets to go out and make these memories with the kids and stuff like that. And they wouldn't, honestly, if I didn't work like I do, they wouldn't have the opportunity to. So I do work a lot less now than I used to. Like even this week, I had a couple days, I didn't even start work until 12 o'clock. I hung out in bed with her and watched TV and stuff. A year ago, I would never have been able to do that. So while I realize there are things I'm missing out on, I'm also like, and again, I'm a man without no goals, but in the same time, I kind of have an envisionment, of our future and stuff like that. And I'm going to work as much as I can now while I still can, as I make myself more valuable. So I'm kind of like verging on making myself valuable with also doing less work in a sense, whether it be physical work or time spent work and stuff like that. And I grew up stupid poor, man, and I just want them to be able to live a different life than I grew up living.
I understand that for sure, and that's why you and I have been talking for so many months about trying to get this done and have this conversation, because you're the one guy that there's been a list. As soon as I said I wanted to do a podcast, there were so many people that want to be on the list, and I wanted to be on the list, but you're the one guy that I want to really bridge between TikTok and into the different groups that I'm involved in, that you can get some real feedback on the business side of stuff. You know what I mean? And please don't take that as like I'm critiquing or saying that, what you're doing is not working, because obviously it is. But, if I can help you network with more people like Cody and that are out there just killing it like you with business, man, that's the whole goal for this podcast with me, is just to bring the people that are in different communities, bring them closer together within the automotive community. You know what I mean? The different factions and the different platforms and all. I want to try and bridge all that together so that everybody kind of knows who you are. Who more of the players on that side of the fence are, and we all lean a little more on each other, because I'm like you. I don't want to gatekeep. I want to see the mentorship thing improve. And the only way it does that is by lifting this industry up. And the only way that does that is because, we all don't have to agree on every little stupid issue and topic. And, what the way you want to run your business doesn't have to be the way somebody else runs their business. And it doesn't make it wrong if you do it different than they do. And they're not wrong. I just want people to get as much resources available to them as possible and network as much as possible. I honestly 1,000,000% believe that is the way we turn this around, is we stop competing against each other and start helping one another with how to make it work. You know, it's like you said, there's more cars out there that need fixing than we can all get done. No question about it. Um, people say all the time that that's not my customer; it's somebody else's customer, right? That's not a customer for me, but it might be a customer for them. That doesn't mean them is less than me. It doesn't mean that them is different. It's just different. If we can get where all of us are working together, then this industry becomes so much easier to find young people to work in, to get that passion back that you had for it so long ago that I had. That's all it's going to take is just people networking with each other, and it could be, there's a lot of strong opinions, right? There's a lot of strong personalities, but that was why from the moment I started to reach out on TikTok, it was like I kept hammering on you to be like, we got to sit down and do this. We got to sit down and do this because I want you to know the people that I know to just to share what you are and to share them with you. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
100%. Yeah, I'm definitely down.
Yeah.
I think the industry has a long way to go, before things are fixed. But the more people that band together, most definitely can make the most change.
And that's what it's about. Like, I mean, sometimes people look at the way I am, like you said, rude as shit.
Like, it was the comment. The comment was rude as shit.
Taken completely out of context because it's not people. When I say up here in Canada, when we say you can't hack it, that doesn't mean that you are a hack. That just doesn't mean that you're.
No, I get it. I completely get it. That's the same terminology here. You couldn't hack it. You know what I mean? It was just funny. It's like, don't get me wrong. Like it was funny, but at the same time, when I looked at it, I went, oh, well, that was rude as shit. But I also, it doesn't matter if it's rude as shit really, because it starts a conversation. And kind of what I said in that video too was, that I felt it was a comment that was based on almost a misunderstanding of the fact that, like, so when she started that video, she posed a question almost.
Yeah.
Am I, or why am I starting to realize why certain people call it the stealership? If we're putting it in like, more drawn out words there. But the question was never actually asked during the video. So then the rest of the video kind of came off as like, she's just calling them the stealership. And like I said in my video, I've called them that a million times, but also regionally, and like, I probably shouldn't say this because I go to some of these franchise dealers to diag, but the franchise dealers in my area have a reputation for being horrible, and on top of being horrible, well, on top of being just more expensive, which is the nature of a dealer, being less than quality work. And it's not like one of them or two of them. It's like I could tell you which dealers have a good reputation, and then there's the rest of them. And that's something that, again, is like that's the chain, the down the chain problem from the owners to the GM to the techs to the dispatcher to the service writers and everything like that. They're just, it's staffing issues probably.
It's just the culture of the business, right? And that's what I want to change, the culture of the industry, and that's why my point was just we all need to do better. Just stop with the negative words, the negative, nicknames for things in our industry, and just try to uplifting it. If you're going to play that round, you're just going to pander to the consumer, and the consumer is going to continue to think that we're all a bunch of uneducated thieving crooks, and that's so far from the truth. But I mean, it's easy to get likes when you side on the side of the customer. If you really want to get change happening in this industry, we have to lift each other up. And, at no point was I trying to push anybody down. I was just trying to draw, focus on the fact that it's to pander to the customer doesn't help us. We all need to do better so that we can serve the customer better. Trying to compare and say, hey, I do this and they don't do that, and that makes them less than me. That's not doing anybody any good.
I mean, I think so. I mean, I agree, but I also think that it's hard not to, no matter if you're a customer or a tech or a creator or whatever the case may be, not to look at the industry from the outside in the customer's eyes and everything like that. And, while, yes, obviously not every dealership is a stealership, but it's probably a very small amount of dealerships that actually have an intent to stealership through anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't, the public is watching. The public will be watching. We're not talking to just technicians and just people in the industry. So, in order to kind of broaden the eyes of the customers that are watching, that video needed to happen. Then your video needed to happen, and
Yep.
Mark's video needed to happen, and Brandon's video needed to happen, and my video needed to happen. So now the customer base, they're being pandered to by all of us, but with all very different opinions of things that are going on. And that gives them more of an inside look than they would ever get compared to, just pulling up to a dealership or their bad experiences with a dealership. They get to see so let's say like I'm just a random dealership customer and I'm TikTok savvy. I know how to go to comments and click and see where, how everything links together. And I see your video and I'm like, yeah, the dealership. They are the dealership, and then I'm like, oh, what's this comment? And it's you. And then I click that and it's Brandon. And, he's saying what he said. And I'm like, whoa, man, this one tech got really upset about this one tech that got really upset for her calling it a stealer shed. And they watch this chain of things go down. And without realizing it, they've just gained a lot of knowledge on the different ways that we all work. And their perception from her video might have changed by the end of that, where they're like, oh, well, maybe there was a stealership feeling for this reason,
Mm-hmm.
It's all perspective when it comes down to it, and everybody's watching these videos.
And we being in the industry, we have to always remember what they might do for a complete stranger that drives in. Little Mrs. Smith needs her check engine light cleared. Well, how they would treat her is always going to be very different than how they'll treat somebody like you or somebody like me, because they already know that, like, when they're doing that for Mrs. Smith, they're trying to recoup a customer. They're trying to build a customer. Like Norm talked about, right? I'll plug a tire because it'll build me a customer. They know that if you ride in there and need that done, that you're not really that same type of customer to them, right? So they then probably will hand you a bill, and it's just business at that point. It's just business. It's not personal. So that's why I try to always, in my conversations and stuff, try to keep everything non-personal. Just discuss the business, And it got sideways real fast about everybody thinking, it was a personal attack, and it certainly wasn't meant to be. And, it's just, we always have to remember that is what you might think the customer should be treated as is what you would do. But if you don't have the means to do that, unfortunately, we're at somebody else's mercy. So I wanted to thank you for coming on. I don't want to take any more of your Sunday night up. I really appreciate you coming on here. I think that this could be a month or two before it gets dropped. And I have a really good feeling it's probably going to really blow up well when it does. And they're probably like, people ask me, can we have other guests on again and again and again? And I'm fully expecting that they're probably going to want to have you on again. So I'll giving you the warning now that,
Yeah, no, I had a blast. I'd be happy to come on again. I mean, honestly, these are the conversations I like to have. I could sit here and talk for hours,
Awesome. Well, I'll let you go on that note. I'm proud to see you're killing it. I'm glad to see that you're doing, you're in a better place than you were. I didn't know a whole lot of the background when the shop closed down, and I thought maybe that was going to be like, something really, really negative. But it seems after talking with you that it's hasn't been a complete negative for you, and I'm proud of that. I'm happy for you on that. And like I said, I want to see you continued success, and I really appreciate your skill set, and I really appreciate your attitude and your dedication to this industry. And I mean, that's why I want to have you on, people like you on, is because I want to shine light on the stars within the industry, and that's why I'm here doing this.
Hey, if you could do me a favor real quick and comment on, and share this episode, I'd really appreciate it. And please, most importantly, set the podcast to automatically download every Tuesday morning. As always, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for their perspectives and expertise, and I hope that you'll please join us again next week on this journey of change. Thank you to my partners in the ASA group and to the Changing the Industry podcast. Remember what I always say, in this industry, you get what you pay for. Here's hoping everyone finds their missing 10 millimeter, and we'll see you all again next time.